And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's stories, ladies and gentlemen. Story number 1.
I showed my cheating wife how ruthless I react to small mistakes. How can life take a 360-degree turn so quickly? If you had seen me 6 months ago, I would have been a happy man, content with my life. Now, I'm typing my life story on the internet to ask people what they think I should do. Yeah, I'm that desperate. I, male, 32, and have been married for 4 years to my wife, a female, 30. I work in a tech company while my wife is a homemaker. We have a baby girl who turned 1 year old last month. I met my wife, Maria, 6 years ago in a club. I went with a group of friends. We casually started talking to each other and then danced together for a while. She was a fun girl, that was my first thought about her. We didn't get each other's contact number or anything. We just danced and had some drinks together and then went our way. You should have gotten her number, bro, my friend Ethan told me a few days later. He was teasing me that I had fallen in love with the girl from the bar. Yeah, I really should have, I replied, sighing and rubbing my eyes. I couldn't get her out of my mind. I was regretting not getting her number. I was out for a work lunch with Ethan, but the client got stuck in traffic, so it was just us. Me and Ethan have been friends since college and also started working in the same company. Holy f***, you aren't going to believe this, he said, his face wide open in shock. What, I said, and turned to look at what had gotten Ethan like this. Oh f***, I said, a smile finally coming to my face. Entering the restaurant was none other than the girl from the bar. I saw her laughing with her friends as she made her way to their table. I couldn't believe that I was seeing her again. The regret of not asking for her number finally left my shoulder. Maybe it was in our destiny to meet again, I thought ludicrously. I wasn't going to repeat the same mistake again. I called the waiter and sent her a martini. She ordered that drink that night at the bar. This time she gave me her number before we went our way. We started chatting a lot. She was working on temporary jobs then. For those of you who don't know what that is, so while there is a vacancy and the company looks for someone to fill them, they hire people in those positions to fill it temporarily. She didn't know what she wanted to do permanently. She liked that her job didn't need any long-term commitment and she could leave when she was bored from that particular job. I liked talking to her. We both were single and just wanted to have some fun. We went to clubs together and partied many times with our friends. One thing led to another and we kissed each other one night outside her house. I really like you, I told her. She told me that she liked me too. We started hanging out with each other a lot more. We would spend weekends in bed. I was really happy to be with her and I thought it was a mutual feeling. Maria was quite beautiful, everywhere she went guys would turn. I couldn't believe how lucky I had gotten. She would tell me how guys flirted with her wherever she went. It never surprised me. I thought it was because of her beauty, but it wasn't just that. One evening when I took Maria out for dinner with my friends, I noticed something that night. She was here as my girlfriend but was still smiling and flirting with one of my friends who was single at that point of time. It felt a bit weird to me, but I thought maybe they are just being friendly. It wasn't just my overthinking. During our course of relationship, I noticed her various times, openly flirting with other men. One time when I confronted her about it, she told me that it was just healthy flirting and didn't mean anything. I told her that I wasn't comfortable with my girlfriend openly flirting with men. I didn't do that, so I thought it was fair on my part to expect the same from her. She told me she won't do it if I don't like that, and that was the end of the conversation. She stopped flirting, or healthy flirting, like she called it. Our relationship went well, but we also encountered rough patches in our relationship. Even though Maria told me that she stopped flirting with random men, I would still see her passing sensual smiles to random men sometimes. She would get texts from men asking her where she is and what she's doing. I would confront her about it and she would get angry. She would tell me that I didn't trust her and it's just my insecurity talking. When we had fights like these, we stopped talking to each other and then she would come and tell me that she's sorry and some sweet things. I was a young man in love, I couldn't resist her. So I used to let it go. At our second anniversary, I popped the question to her to marry me. It was an instant yes, to both our delight. We got married with our friends and family present. Maria told me that she didn't want to work anymore. I told her that if she doesn't want to, then she doesn't need to. I worked enough for us. I did quite well at my work. Along with my job, I made certain investments which turned out to be really good decisions. I was happy I could provide a comfortable life to my family. Our life was going well. We had a good life. I wanted to expand our family, but Maria said she wasn't ready for it. I understood her. Becoming a mother was a commitment for life, and I wanted her to be completely ready for it. I didn't have to wait for long because after 2 years of marriage, Maria told me that she's ready to be a mother. She said it felt natural for her to be a mother. She soon got pregnant with our baby girl, and everything felt too good to be true. We were going to be a complete family. Our baby girl came into this world around a year ago. She looked so beautiful in my arms. She was a perfect balance between me and my wife. I held her in my arms while I sat with my wife on her hospital bed. My family was finally complete, and I was going to do everything in my power to give them the best of their life. Maria didn't have any complications during the birth of our baby, but she suffered postpartum depression heavily. I hated seeing her like that. Doctors told me that it was more common than I thought. They said she will heal with time. I made sure to be there for her through all of it. I took leave from office to be there for her and the baby. She started feeling better after a month or so. She told me that I should go back to work. Even though I was reluctant at first about leaving them and going to work, I resumed work. The work had piled up when I went back after leave. I had to work extra hours to compensate. I felt bad that I was not able to give enough time to my wife and newborn baby. It wasn't fair for Maria to handle the baby alone, especially when she had just started feeling better. Work wasn't something I could ignore as well. I found a solution to it. I hired a nanny for a baby so that Maria could also have some time to herself. I told her that she should go out with her friends and all. She was reluctant at first. She didn't want to leave the baby and go anywhere. I convinced her that it was all right, biggest mistake I ever made. She started going out with her friends. The first time she went, I saw how happy she was when she came back. She had always been a party girl, so it didn't surprise me. I told her that if it made her happy, she should make time for herself. She hugged me and thanked me so many times for being understanding. I didn't think I was doing a big thing. Any husband would want his wife happy, and I was doing the same. I came home early from work to be with the baby when Maria had plans with her friends. We had a nanny, but I thought it's best if one of the parents was with her most of the time. I didn't want my daughter to get raised by a nanny. I appreciated the additional help, but I liked to be an involved parent. Maria was also happy as she was able to enjoy her life like she did before. We were settling in our new life with the baby. Even though me and Maria weren't spending much time together, I was content that she's feeling better. I thought soon everything would be fine and we'll spend a lot of time together, but we never did. One night, after Maria came from hanging out with her friends, she told me that she's very tired and going to sleep. I told her to go to bed and that I'll come to bed after putting the baby to sleep. I put the baby in her crib and went to our bedroom. Maria was fast asleep when I came to the room. I joined her in the bed and was going to sleep as well when I heard her murmuring. I turned to look at her side. Her brows were knitted together. She did that when she dreamt of something. She was calling someone in her dream. Jack, she said. It wasn't me. I didn't even know any Jack. I was confused as hell, but I was like maybe it would be a random dream or something, and then went to sleep. The next morning, I didn't remember that something like this had happened the previous night. Everything went normal the next few days. Until all of it came apart. Maria had gone for her friend's night. I was at home with our baby. I was watching television when the door opened and Maria entered. I smiled when I saw her and she smiled back. She took the baby from my arms and kissed her. She told me she's tired and was going to take a shower before hitting the bed. I was replying to some mails on my phone, but then my phone ran out of battery. I searched for my charger, but couldn't find it. I must have left it in the office. I went to our room to take Maria's charger. I was looking for her charger in her bag when I got the shock of my life. There was a hotel bill and a packet of condoms in her bag. Why the is there a hotel bill and condoms in her bag? We didn't use condoms, and I sure as never went to this hotel room. I stood there like someone had poured a bucket of cold water on my head. My wife was cheating on me. When Maria came from the shower, she saw what's in my hands and her smile slipped. Her face turned pale. I waited for her to tell me why she has this with her. I was sort of hoping that what I assumed was not true and she hadn't done anything, but the look on her face told me that I was right. Maria realized that there's no point in lying anymore and started crying. I would have felt bad if she cried any other time, but crying after going behind my back, I had no interest in making her feel better. She told me what I already knew. I made a mistake, she said between crying. It was harmless. You know, I wouldn't initiate something like that. I kept looking at her. She continued talking then. She told me how her friends go to the same bar every time. She told me that the bartender kept flirting with her. She didn't flirt back with him at first, but he didn't give up. I thought it would be just harmless flirting, she told me silently. What happened next? I asked in a neutral voice. She said she didn't expect her flirting to lead anywhere. She thought it would be fun to do for the old time's sake. He kissed me, she whispered. Her words were breaking something inside of me. Then? I asked. We were alone at that time. All my friends had left and I thought I'll have one more drink and then call the driver. But suddenly he was so close to me, he thought I was interested in him because I flirted, then he kissed me and I couldn't stop him, she said as if having a word vomit. What do you mean, you couldn't stop him? I asked. Her words sound ridiculous. I kissed him back and I don't know what happened before he took me to a room of that hotel, she said without meeting my eyes. I knew I wasn't going to like this, but I didn't think her words were going to hurt like this. You slept with him, I summarized for her. She continued explaining her cheating to me. I don't know what I was thinking. It was completely irrational. Please forgive me. It only happened once. It was a small mistake. What's his name? I asked her. Jack, she whispered. She was dreaming about this guy in our bed. I didn't know what to say to her. The nerves of this woman. She had the galls to sleep with a random dude at the bar and then to come home and tell me that it was a small mistake. Small mistake, my foot. She knew bloody well what she was doing. My anger was taking over me and I didn't want to say anything to her. I told her I'm going to sleep in the guest room and then left her in the room. This happened 2 days ago. Now I'm avoiding her. I stay at the office till late and leave home early in the morning. I don't know how to deal with this mess. Kind people on Reddit, if you know what I should do, please tell me. I literally have no idea how to handle this. Update. It has been 2 weeks since that night when I found out Maria cheated on me. Like I said here, I was avoiding her initially because I didn't want to look in her eyes. Days passed and I kept doing just that until I couldn't take it anymore. I went to a bar and got drunk like I had never been before. I didn't get drunk like that even when I was a teenager. I decided that I was going to show my wife the consequence of her small mistake. I caught the eye of the woman giving me a smile. Usually I would have ignored it, but not that day. It was pay time. I took that woman home. I opened the door and took that woman inside. I made a grand gesture of welcoming her in and took her to the living room. My wife was avoiding being in the living room when I was there, or any room for that matter. But I knew Maria was watching. I asked the woman to kiss me and she obliged happily. I let her continue the kiss knowing my wife is watching me with another woman's mouth on my mouth. I wanted Maria to see this. I wanted her heart to hurt just like mine did when she told me that she slept with another man. I could hear Maria crying, but you reap what you sow. She deserved this pain. She caused this mess in our home. I stopped the woman when I heard my daughter crying and told her to leave politely. She made a pout but left grudgingly. I went to the baby's crib and took my daughter in my arms. She stopped crying after a little bit. She gave me so much peace. I put her to sleep and went back to the living room. Maria was there. Her face covered her hands. I know you wanted me to see that. I didn't reply and then went to the guest room. The next morning I woke up with a bitch of a hangover. I went to the kitchen to get something when I saw that Maria was making coffee. Even seeing her filled me with anger. That's why it was best to avoid her. I made this for your hangover, she said as she passed me some green liquid. My head was throbbing, but I didn't need her help. Don't act like my wife now. But I'm your wife, she said like my words had hurt her. Oh really? Didn't remember that when you slept with another man. Did you? I didn't have time for her drama. I grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge and went back to the guest room. I took some medicine and started feeling better. I wasn't proud of what I did last night. Not because it was against the dignity of my marriage, that ship sailed when Maria went to that hotel room. It wasn't just my style. I knew Maria was hurt the way she sobbed last night, but that wasn't enough. I wanted her to suffer. I was going to make that happen. I called up my lawyer and told them to make the papers as soon as possible. They told me it will be ready within 24 hours. The next day, the papers were sent to me in my office. I wanted to see Maria's reaction when she saw this. Just as I was leaving work, I got a call from Maria. This was the first time she called me after that night she came home. I picked it up thinking it could be about our daughter as well. I came to the mall to do some shopping, but they are saying the card is blocked. That's the first time she called me, and that's because her card is blocked. Figures. That's because it is. Shock took over voice and she started telling me that I can't do that. I didn't have time for her theatrics. I told her plainly, I think I just did, and then hung up on her. I found Maria waiting for me at home. You can't do much shopping if you don't have the money. She didn't waste another minute and started telling me that I can't take her money from her. I know you're upset, but don't act like this. The audacity of this woman knew no bounds. I told her it wasn't her money, but my money. I just liked providing her with everything because she was my wife. I don't want to spend anymore on a bitch like you, I told her. She told me that legally she's still my wife and has the right to my finances. That brought a smile to my face. She was confused as to why I am smiling. You are my wife, but not for long, I gave her the divorce papers as my words drew understanding on her face. The divorce papers clearly stated that I was filing divorce because of my wife's adultery. My lawyer had told me that we'll get full custody of my daughter. Since we were getting a divorce because Maria cheated on me, she wasn't going to get a single penny from me. It was worth paying my lawyer the hefty fees. I wanted Maria to be stripped of everything I provided for her. She was going to be on the streets. Maria didn't have any assets or any money except for my money. I used to think of it as our money, but it now. It's my money and I was going to make Maria suffer and make her regret cheating on me. I bet she already did. Update. It has been a year since my last update. I'm happily divorced now. I have full custody of my daughter and I didn't have to pay anything to Maria, thanks to the loopholes my lawyers provided. Maria moved out from the house a year ago. When she was taking her jewelry and her designer clothes, my lawyer, who was present that day with 2 of his assistants, told her that she cannot take it out of the house as it belonged to me. The shock on her face was so worth it. She left everything and was about to leave when I stopped her. She looked at me with hope, like I'll give her all that. But she was mistaken. I told her that she forgot her ring. It was a 3-carat diamond. I wasn't going to let that bitch keep it. I don't think this means anything to you since our marriage never did either, I said as I took the ring from her and threw it in the fireplace. Why did you do that? She asked like she couldn't believe her eyes. I didn't want you to have it. Doesn't mean I'm going to keep it, I said calmly. She was visibly humiliated and then left the house. I have not seen her since. she doesn't have any money or any home. Last I heard, she lived with some friends of hers before they kicked her out either. She didn't even ask to meet our daughter, and that was perfectly fine by me. I didn't need her negativity in our life. I'm perfectly content with my daughter. Everyone who heard my story till here, I'm really thankful to you. I'm grateful for all your comments and advice. It felt relieving sharing my story with all of you.
Story number 2.
Dear Redditors, I find myself writing to you today with a heavy heart and a mind overwhelmed by a mix of emotions. Recently, I stumbled upon a gut-wrenching realization that has shattered my world. My wife, whom I thought I knew so well, has been unfaithful. The innocuous sight of her car parked outside a lavish villa unveiled a secret affair with a mysterious businessman. As I gather my thoughts to share this harrowing tale, I hope to navigate through this difficult chapter with your support and insight. Let's start at the beginning of this story. I am a 45-year-old male married to a loving wife of 37 years. We have built a strong and enduring relationship over the years, filled with love, understanding, and support. Together, we have weathered life's ups and downs, celebrating our triumphs and finding solace in each other during challenging times, or so I thought. I work in the sales department of a big firm. My job requires long work hours, and I often go on site to sell our solar panels to our clients. My clients are usually wealthy and influential people. Interacting with such clients has its perks, as I get to build strong relationships and understand their specific needs and preferences. It's rewarding to witness the positive impact our solar panels have on their energy consumption and the environment. Due to my hectic work schedules, my personal life is highly jeopardized, which has put a strain on our relationships. It's challenging to find a balance between work and personal life, causing feelings of guilt and frustration from my end. On the other hand, my wife is a homemaker. I make enough money to fend for the both of us. It was her decision to take care of the house, and I, being a gentleman, supported her choice. I believe in the importance of valuing and respecting each other's decisions, and I am grateful for the dedication and hard work my wife puts into creating a comfortable home for us.
Hey everyone. Unfortunately, basically everyone who is watching these videos isn't subscribed. It would mean the world to me to quickly get out of the full screen video for 3 seconds and press that subscribe button. It's free, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Sorry for bothering, and thank you so much if you subscribed.
She said that she did not want to have kids as that would affect our relationship. She wanted nothing to come between us. She emphasized that she valued our relationship above all else and believed that having children could potentially create complications and strain our bond. She expressed her desire to prioritize our connection and maintain a strong foundation without any external factors interfering. I was respectful of her decision and was elated with the amount of love she had for me. My wife, who is quite meticulous about housekeeping, seemed to have lost interest in it a few days ago. She stated that she didn't feel like it when questioned about it. I dismissed it, figuring it might just be a phase where she wants to unwind at home and take a vacation from her regular duties. But as the days passed, I couldn't help but wonder whether she was dealing with anything more. Her total disdain for the maintenance of our house without any good cause appeared out of character. I advised her to take a few days off from this and go on a trip with her friends to unwind and clear her head. She will be able to see things from a different angle and return to the situation with more enthusiasm to face any obstacles that may come up. Furthermore, she will get much-needed support and make happy memories that will help elevate her spirits during this difficult time by spending quality time with friends. This plan made her very happy and immediately improved her attitude. She showed me the itinerary for the roughly week-long trip she and her girlfriends were planning in the coming days. They intended to travel to other cities and check out a range of tourist destinations. The plan made sure they got the most of their week-long vacation by including things like shopping, sightseeing, and sampling local cuisine. She was slowly returning to her joyful self, which made me glad. In any case, I was too preoccupied with my work to give her the time and attention she required. I thought she deserved a break from this boredom. As I was going for work, she waved farewell to me and requested me not to worry about dropping her off because she would be picking up her buddies on the way. I did not think much of it and left as usual, asking her to enjoy her road trip. All of it started with a persistent uneasy sensation that gradually became more and more obvious to me, an instinct telling me something was off. My spouse, who was traveling with her friends, hardly returned my calls promptly and would instead send me a brief text message indicating that she was too exhausted to chat. But since I was so consumed by love and trust, I was unwilling to face the fears that were growing inside of me. I chose to embrace the vows of devotion and loyalty that I thought my wife and I shared, brushing them off as paranoia. I had no idea that behind the surface, a lie was being spoken and our relationship was becoming more and more strained. Subtle contradictions and odd behaviors began to chip away at the facade over time, making me doubt everything I had assumed to be true about our marriage. On a fateful day, I was driving by my new client's gorgeous mansion tucked away in lush gardens when I stopped to check on the solar panel installation site. There it was, my wife's distinctive car, in front of me. An intense blend of inquisitiveness, rage, and sorrow drove me to look into it more. According to my wife's itinerary, she wasn't meant to be in the city. I continued to deny that it might be someone else's vehicle. Calming down, I walked up to the villa and watched the scenario develop in front of me in silence. I saw something that I never would have expected to see. My wife was smiling and conversing with a man inside the property, totally unaware of my presence. It was as if she had found a new life, a new happiness that didn't include me. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me questioning everything I thought I knew about our relationship. A man wearing a sharp business suit came out as I rang the doorbell and watched, and much to my dismay, my wife came out and made love to this stranger. My head was reeling from the heartbreaking treachery I had just witnessed, leaving me stunned. The scene unfolded slowly, with every second leaving a deeper scar on my spirit. I felt simultaneously numb, confused, and devastated. I stood motionless, unwilling to face the reality that was being revealed to me, and my eyes began to well up with tears. I was so hurt by the betrayal that I started to doubt everything I had previously believed to be true about our relationship. I was immobile as the man persisted in soliciting for my business while I stood there feeling numb. I couldn't even think to talk. As if that would ease my anguish, my wife got up from his side and walked inside to change into some more clothes. I stumbled a lot until I eventually discovered my voice. I explained to him that my purpose was to survey the area before installing the solar panels. Seemingly pleased with my answer, the man nodded. He clarified that he was the property's owner and that he had been anticipating a visitor to check out the location. I couldn't decide whether to carry on with the inspection or just go back to my car and drive away. But curiosity won out in the end. The man started talking to me about his ideas for renewable energy on his land as we made our way to the location. He was attractive, well-built, and pleasant. Give that to him. I started looking over the land right away, hoping to see my wife if I could get a sight of her. After showing such tenderness to another man, I think she felt bad about showing herself to me. I kept looking about the land, but my thoughts kept returning to the agonizing experience of seeing my wife's love for someone else. I was still reeling from the sorrow and betrayal, and I was still feeling uneasy as I looked for any indication that she was there. In the aftermath of this shocking discovery, I found myself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. Anguish, anger, and confusion consumed me as questions plagued my mind. How long has this affair been going on? Did I miss any signs? Who was this man my wife had become involved with? These questions, rife with self-doubt and pain, taunted me day and night as I began the tumultuous journey of confronting my spouse about her infidelity. As I mustered the courage to confront my spouse, I couldn't help but wonder if our entire relationship had been a lie. The betrayal cut deep, leaving me questioning not only her actions but also my own judgment. With a heavy heart, I knew that the conversation ahead would be difficult, but it was necessary for both of us to face the truth and decide the fate of our marriage. My wife returned after the road trip that she intended to go on. The confrontation that followed was filled with tears, accusations, and emptied promises. The person I once adored had transformed into a stranger, a person I could no longer trust. The pain of betrayal lingered in the air as we exchanged harsh words, each trying to defend our own perspective. I was left speechless as she accused me of her actions. Her words cut deep, leaving me stunned and questioning everything. It was as if the foundation of our trust had crumbled beneath us, leaving only a bitter taste of disbelief in my mouth. She said that because of my inconsistent work schedule, she was seldom alone at home and found it impossible to be happy. She told me how difficult it was for her to be happy because of my erratic schedule, which frequently made her feel alone in our empty house. She tried to keep a happy attitude, but being alone all the time affected how happy she felt. I countered her, stating that it was her decision not to work and her sole decision of not to have kids. She had no right to blame me, as all I ever did was respect her decisions and follow them with no questions asked. This is what I got in return for everything I had done for her. The shattered trust left a void between us, and I wondered if our relationship could ever be repaired. The aftermath of this confrontation led to countless sleepless nights, introspection, and reflections on the future I had envisioned for my marriage. I questioned whether I could ever regain the trust that was shattered, and if staying in this relationship was truly worth the emotional toll it was taking on me. As I grappled with these thoughts, I realized that rebuilding trust would require both effort and a willingness to forgive, but ultimately, the decision of whether to salvage our marriage or move on rested solely in my hands. I knew that it would be a long and challenging journey, but I also understood that staying in a relationship solely out of fear or obligation would not lead to genuine happiness. It was time for me to prioritize my own well-being and make a choice that aligned with my values and aspirations for the future. Also, the fact that my wife did not follow me after being caught red-handed haunted me. I could never live with the fact of how little she cared about what I was going through. It was a painful realization that my wife's lack of support only intensified the emotional turmoil I was experiencing. The feeling of betrayal and abandonment weighed heavily on my heart. The words of my wife stating that she would be willing to lead a happy life being the mistress of a rich guy scarred me for life. Her words pierced my heart, leaving a lasting imprint of pain and betrayal. The thought of her choosing material wealth over our love shattered my trust in her and made me question the authenticity of our relationship. Was she always this person? Have I seen something different for all these years? Was everything that she showed me just an act? These questions lingered in my mind, casting doubt on the authenticity of our relationship. Memories of moments shared together now seemed tainted, as I wondered if there was a hidden side to her that I had failed to see. The uncertainty gnawed at me, leaving me desperate for answers and questioning the foundation of our connection. The fact that she did not feel any remorse or guilt for her actions was troubling. It raised concerns about her moral compass and empathy towards others. Her lack of remorse suggested a potential disregard for the consequences of her actions, which could have serious implications for those around her. The way she defended her actions even after being in the wrong further highlighted her lack of remorse and willingness to take responsibility. This behavior could potentially damage her relationship and make it difficult for me to trust or rely on her in the future. It is important for her to reflect on the impact of her actions and consider the feelings of those affected, in order to foster a healthier sense of empathy and accountability. Redditors, I stand here before you today, this open forum where empathy and advice thrive, seeking solace and wisdom. How does one navigate the treacherous path of healing from such an immense betrayal? I implore you to share your stories, advice, and kind words for those who have experienced similar pain in order to find some semblance of peace. The journey of healing from betrayal can be arduous and overwhelming, as it shakes the very foundation of trust and leaves deep emotional scars. It is crucial to remember that you are not alone in this struggle, and reaching out to others who have gone through similar experiences can provide invaluable support and guidance. Together, we can find solace, strength, and ultimately discover a path towards healing and inner peace. In the face of betrayal, the pain and emotional turmoil can consume even the strongest of individuals. Discovering my wife's infidelity with a mysterious businessman has left me shattered and struggling to find solid ground. Through this lengthy Reddit post, I hope to find solace, advice, and strength from those who have encountered similar trials on their life's journey. To those who have ever faced the agony of infidelity or betrayal, your stories, words of encouragement, and advice are invaluable. Together, let us heal, grow, and ultimately find the strength to move forward despite the scars of betrayal. I never thought I would find myself in this situation, questioning everything I thought I knew about my marriage. The pain and confusion are overwhelming, but I believe that by sharing my story and connecting with others who have experienced similar hardships, we can find the support and guidance needed to navigate this difficult path towards healing and rebuilding our lives. Let us come together as a community to uplift each other and find the resilience to move forward, knowing that we are not alone in our struggles. Comments *. 1. U/Reddit user 1 *. OP, I completely understand what you are going through. At the same time, I don't think there is anything wrong with what your wife has done. She wanted you to spend quality time with her and not run behind just making money. It's important to strike a balance between work and personal life, and your wife's concern for quality time together is valid. However, it's also essential to acknowledge the importance of financial stability and providing for your family's needs. Finding a compromise that satisfies both of your needs could be a constructive way forward. If she found that balance in someone else, you are the one to blame for it. You pushed her to her extremes to take such a step. All she wanted from you was love, attention, and a little acknowledgement. You failed in providing her with the basic necessities in a loving relationship. She chose someone who provided her with all of that. 2. U/Reddit user 2 *. OP, I completely understand the situation you are in. I was myself in a similar situation a few years ago. I found my wife cheating with my business partner. He would come often to my place to discuss steps to grow our business. Whenever I went on pitches at other places, I found that my business partner would find excuses to leave early or ask me to go alone. One day I forgot my pitch and went home to get it, and I saw his car parked outside my house. I thought that he had come to accompany me, and when I went inside, what I saw shocked my eyes. They were both lying naked in my bed. That's when I decided not to trust another woman ever in my life. 3. U/Reddit user 3 *. Women all around the world are just plain materialistic. They just pounce from one man to another once they find out he has money or possessions. They prioritize wealth and material gain over genuine connections and emotional fulfillment. This stereotype perpetuates the belief that women are solely interested in financial security, disregarding their individual desires, aspirations, and the complexities of their relationships. However, it is important to recognize that this generalization is unfair and does not accurately represent the diverse experiences and values of women globally.
Story number 3.
Hello, guys. This is pretty much the saddest reality that I've had to face. Not gonna lie, I've been on this platform reading stories of people getting cheated on by their partners. I never knew I'd one day be here writing mine. Life has really gone full circle. I booked a trip for friends and family, and my wife decided that was her cue to sleep with my best friend. I, a 53-year-old male, am now trying to find a way to process the bullshit I was forced to experience. I don't know if there's a lesson in this, a lesson on trust or something. I don't know if I'd ever get over the pain, but I look forward to what the days ahead would bring. It's been 2 years now, and my wife of 20 years, Riel 46, had spent the year before the incident asking to go on a trip abroad. I had turned it down because we currently have 2 sons in university. We were comfortable, I made sure of it. Having 2 children in uni, on the other hand, meant we didn't spend as much as we did earlier. I had constantly turned down the notion that we spent 2 weeks in a foreign land, because I thought it was only going to waste the money we had. Anyway, after giving it some thought and guided by the constant pleas and requests from my wife, I decided, why not? I started to plan a trip for the whole family. I thought my sons needed a break from the stress that came with being in university, and I felt a vacation would be perfect for all of us. I surfed the internet in search of someplace worthwhile, but I couldn't find one that's good and also fits my budget. We couldn't go to someplace in Africa because my sons each had about 3 allergies. I was always someone who wanted to visit Africa though, especially Nigeria. I just decided that the trip to Nigeria would be something I and my wife would do when I retired. Well, after searching for a while, I found the cheapest fun-packed vacation plan for a family. My wife liked to be treated like royalty, so I decided that I'd only go for the ones that were high class. The cheapest ones I found were worth close to double one of my son's annual tuition. I decided it was time to outsource this vacation. That was where my friend, the closest I've had and the one who's been around the longest, came in. He was a millionaire who had helped me out a ton over the years. He had once talked to me about going overseas on holiday for the same duration as I had. I seized an opportunity to squeeze one more freebie out of him. I discussed my plans with him, showing him the choices I had and the money I had budgeted for the trip. He looked at them, smiled and said, "These aren't vacations, bro, let me show you what a vacation is." He opened his laptop, and what I saw wowed me. The locations, the way the pictures looked spectacular, and how everything I saw looked like they were expensive enough to clear my mortgage. "Are you sure this wouldn't be one of those, what you ordered versus what you got things?" He smiled. He told me how he has been going on these trips at least once a year. He said he reacted the way I did when he first made his millions. He then diverted the conversation into something that didn't relate whatsoever to what we were talking about at hand. John was a bit of an innovative-minded person, although he always used his big brain to run Ponzi schemes and scams. That was how he made his millions. He never got married, at least not yet, as he said he didn't want to settle down to one woman when he could get whatever woman he wanted. He had a son, 12, who he paid child support for. I sometimes wondered why he lived such a lifestyle, and sometimes I envied life. I mean, who wouldn't want to have millions in their name? Who wouldn't want to travel on $300,000 worth of vacation once a year without having to break every piggy bank they owned? Who wouldn't want to live in a $1.4 million worth mansion? He asked me to wire him the budget I had. I did, and I watched him use the money to book a 1-hour goat yoga session for $6. Yeah, you fucking heard me right, he spent my entire budget for a 2-week holiday on a 1-hour session. This motherfucker always found a way to make my hard-earned money look like peanuts. He booked the trip for 6, my wife, my 2 sons, his son, himself and I. He also booked the plane tickets to and fro cause my budget also included flights. I thanked him afterwards and just left. The day of the trip came and we all moved. My wife was most excited amongst all of us. She was happy she finally got to go on what she'd been asking for about a year. She was so excited about the trip that she couldn't even sleep that night. I had to find other ways to put her to sleep, wink wink. When we got to Paris, John took the opportunity to dazzle the mini crowd with his abilities. He knew how to speak French and also knew how to fake an accent. His little antiques excited his son and also my wife for reasons I didn't quite understand. I just shrugged it off to the fact that she was so excited for being on a trip after she had been longing for one. You got to the hotel we booked and it was marvelous. I mean, I should say he booked. It had wonderful scenery and it was literally the biggest hotel in Paris and also the most expensive. We spent a lot on this location. John said he did it because he wanted to show me how happy he was to have a friend like me. He sometimes used to tell me that sometimes, due to how squeaky clean I was as a citizen, people tend to trust doing business with him more. He said something about a few of his clients doing background checks on me one day, which really freaked me out. The hotel had a large house-type suite in the penthouse, had like 4 or 5 rooms, and had bathrooms in all of them. It also had a recreational lounge and a pool at the balcony. It had games, which interested John's son, who got immediately preoccupied by one. It had a pool table and an in-house gym. "I'm really going to get jacked here," I heard my sons say to one another whilst they admired the size of the gym and the quality of the tools. My wife immediately went into one of the rooms and into the bathtub. I joined her in there in a few minutes. I must say, I used to read manhwas that had sex in the bathtub as part of it. Trust me, the bigger and better the tub, the better the *X. Very next day we went about our different itineraries, although we did sometimes do something together. The itineraries we had together included, or not exclusive to karaoke, play snooker together, the already scheduled goat yoga, and some other things that I don't actually know how to pronounce because the French. It was around 7 p.m. John sent his kid to go to sleep whilst the adult continued to have fun. My sons were 21 and 18 respectively, so since we were in Europe, we let them drink and join us when we went into the nearby club. We had fun as a bunch of adults and I, for one, was glad I didn't have to do any parenting. The next day we were all hungover, except for John, which I guess was because he did this sort of thing anyway, so he had built up an immunity. He prepared hangover cures, French style, and I just watched as my wife was laughing at all his jokes, even the ones I thought weren't funny. The next day we went into the city of Paris. It was something of a sightseeing tour. We went to all of the tourist attractions we could go to that day, about 4 that day. When we got back, we were all very exhausted, again except for John. We sat in the living room in the penthouse and recounted our day. We talked about how fun it was and how it was good that we decided to save the visit to the Eiffel Tower for last as in the day before we were scheduled to return to the US. John continued being the comedian, with his funny getting more and more repeated and unfunny. I just wondered one thing though, why does my wife seem to be laughing at every one of his jokes and asking him to repeat them and all that? I looked across the room, to be sure I wasn't the only one not laughing. Alas, it was the other way round, my wife was the only one laughing. When I locked eyes with my sons, it showed that they too wondered what was funny. We all started to retire to our sleeping spaces, starting with John's kid. I can't lie, I keep calling him John's kid because I have completely forgotten the boy's name. My 2 sons followed, then myself. I beckoned my woman to join me to bed, but she insisted I wanted to stay awake a little while longer. At midnight that day, I woke up to ease myself. My wife was sleeping right beside me, but what I found weird was the nightwear she had on. It wasn't from our pile, and it also wasn't the same as the ones in the room we slept in. The nightwear in each room had different colors. I hadn't been in all the rooms, so I didn't know which it was from. The next day I had woken up earlier than I did on the days prior. I had something in me I had nicknamed the need to know basics. Need to know as in I need to know the answers to my questions. I never liked leaving any situation without a remedy. I got into the other rooms one after the other cause I couldn't rest if I didn't know which room the nightwear she had on was from. On getting to the 4th room, I saw one of the cleaners walking out with the night clothes from each of the rooms. It seems he had come in thinking no one was in because in 3 days prior to this day, we were always already out. I counted the piles on his hand to see if he had done all the other rooms, which I hadn't entered, he had. I tried to see if I could determine, from how the piles were stacked what room he had gotten what set from, but before I could even get to that, the cleaner stuck all in a bag, as understandably, they might have been too heavy for him to keep carrying. I went back to the sitting room, put on the 100 inches TV, and sat to enjoy a movie, maybe that would take the thought away from my head. My wife came in, behind the cleaner. One could tell that she had just awoken, she was having one of the nightwears we brought with us this time. She came closer and kissed me saying, "Good morning, my husband." I laughed and replied, "Good morning, your husband's wife." The cleaner looked at me, he had some sort of pity in his eyes. I couldn't understand why he would look at me pitifully. I started to think maybe because this was a different place, with a different culture, that maybe that was how they showed jealousy or envy here. Maybe he wanted what we had. I swear I'm FING stupid. Looking back at that day and recalling the look on that man's face, I am now heavily disappointed at the level of stupidity which I attained that day. I now even wonder how I managed to have 2 sons who are flipping Einsteins at their fields. The days went on. Each day we'd go out and have a blast, all expenses covered by John, and every day we'd come back and I'd sit through another round of enthusiastic show from my wife to my best friend. At some point it started to seem even insulting. Well, the last day came, Eiffel Tower Day. I and John had helped my sons get in bed with twin European ladies the night before, and that was what we were talking about for the most part of the tour. The 18-year-old was just losing his virginity. Don't ask me why he lost it that late, I don't know, and was happy as F***K about it. He could stop talking about how he was tired of doing just second base stuff with his girlfriend at school. I didn't know he had a girlfriend, otherwise I wouldn't have helped him get with one of the twins. The 22-year-old, he just got out of a 4-year relationship. Well, he didn't just get out, it's been a year since they broke up and I was trying to get him back in the game. My wife seemed a little disturbed. Initially I thought it was because of the discussion we were having, so I changed the topic. We continued our tour, my wife kept behaving weird and I kept wondering why. I had asked her if anything was wrong, but she kept on saying no. Minutes later, she told me she wanted to leave, that wasn't feeling good, that her tummy hurt and that she was tired from walking. I told the rest that we were going to wrap it up and head home for the day, but she insisted that she didn't want to spoil the fun for us. It took some convincing for me to decide to stay back and let her head back to the hotel alone, but I finally caved, called her an Uber and kissed her goodbye. There was a few seconds of awkward chatter before I got the boys hyped up again by suggesting we go to an arcade place. We got to the arcade and then the fun started. We played a few of those dancing games where you dance according to the arrows that come up on the screen. Then we played some laser tag. Not to brag, but I spent some time training to join the military, and although I ended up not joining the military, some of my residual skills remained. In this case, I was still a very good shot. We played capture the flag against another family there, a dad and his 4 sons, aged presumably between 22 and 10, I don't know. I brought the smoke. The little boy on the other side cried because of how bad we kept beating them. In the midst of it all, John got a text. I had seen from the reflection in his eyes that the text he got was an alluring photo. I gave him that nice look and shook his hand. We both laughed and then he walked out of the field. In my own Christian mind, I thought the booty call was from a girl he met at one of the parties we went to. We went back to the game we were playing with the other dad and his 4 sons, this time 1 man short. The handicap gave them a fighting chance. He had won all 3 rounds before John, but the 5 games after, we won 3 and lost the other 2. Right about now it had been 2 hours since John left and about 4 since Riel did. I felt bad for leaving her all alone when she obviously needed someone to take care of her. I recalled her intense fear of heights and the fact that she was only just starting to get used to being on high ground. I felt bad for leaving her all by herself even after neglecting her phobia for heights and making her climb the Eiffel Tower. I decided to leave my eldest in charge while I go take care of my woman. I gave them each €400 to spend, which was just above $500 then. I got to the hotel, swiped my keycard across the door and walked in. I saw the clothes my wife had worn earlier scattered on the floor. I had thought to myself, maybe she had diarrhea and took it off before she shat herself. I approached the room we shared, but something else caught my eyes. I saw 1 foot of John's pair of shoes close to the door, then just ahead of it was my wife's panties. My heart began racing. I ran the rest of the way in and pushed the door open. What the actual fuck? My keycard fell from my hand and I followed suit. I dropped to my knees. It was the sound I made when hitting the ground that drew their attention. The 2 were so carried away, they didn't even hear me walk in. I wanted to do something, shout, hit, something. I needed to do something, but I couldn't. I shouted the loudest F***K I had ever heard, and then I went numb. I couldn't hear anything, I couldn't feel my surroundings, and everything in front of me was a blur. I saw the 2 of them run towards me, but I didn't hear a word of what they said. I saw them touch me, but I felt no hands on me. It took a good minute for me to regain consciousness. I was still knelt where I was. My wife was saying words, and now they were audible. She was pleading for my forgiveness, saying how sorry she was. Saying how it was only a one-time thing, that she made a mistake, and how she'd spend the rest of her life trying to make it up to me. All those words went in one ear and out the other. As I knelt there, the one thing that came to my head was the look of pity on the cleaner's face that day, the look I had thought wasn't what it actually was. I know now why he pitied me. This woman was fucking my best friend. I got up and left. I didn't know where to, I just walked. I think I might have lost consciousness again, cause the next thing I remembered was it being nighttime and me still walking. I asked the nearest person how far I was from the hotel I stayed at. I was told it was almost 2 kilometers away. Did I just walk 1.2 miles? The next 3 months went in similar fashion. I'd be doing something and next thing, I've lost time, sometimes a few minutes, sometimes hours. I was forced into early retirement due to this. I almost burnt down my house and I had to stop driving, due to the possibility that I might lose it when behind the wheels. It took a while before I became normal again. I just got back behind the wheel a few weeks ago. As for the woman who did this to me, we're separated. Not divorced yet. She still tries to get us back together even though I told her there can never be an us anymore. We had something good before, but she decided to stick my best friend's D***K inside what we had. As for my best friend, I know some of you are thinking right now, why didn't he say ex-best friend? Well, even I don't know the answer to that question. I have told him if he ever got caught in his illegal deals, that I'd testify against him. He has made his peace with that. We don't talk anymore, although he keeps sending me wads of money in hope that it would help fix things. I keep the money, it's the salary they made me not get. I'd worked 20 years with that company and I still had another good 10 years in me. If not for that incident. I'm seeing a therapist, obviously, because that was the only reason I'm able to write this without going crazy again. I miss my old life and I wish I could have it again. Just without Riel. My eldest is getting married next year, to a young lady who I think is good for him. I hope she treats him better than his mom did me. I think my life will be better, there have been signs. Lord, whatever lessons this was supposed to teach me, I'd have preferred to learn them by handwritten notes. That will be all.